Can your ex want you back and still be too stubborn to actually come back to you? This is one of the biggest fears you're going to face after a breakup. You worry that you could do everything right, win back their love, and after all that, they could still move on and leave you all alone. And this is a natural question, an important one. But the fact that you're asking it also tells me something about where you're at right now. It tells me that you're still coming at this problem from a place of fear. And when you try to get your ex back from a place of fear, it actually hurts your chances of ever reconnecting with them. So this video is going to take you from a place of fear to a place of confidence and power, and we'll do that by talking this out and finding the answers. Now, there's a reason people say that knowledge is power. It's a cliche because it's true. And not knowing is always going to cause you to assume the worst, and because you don't know the right path, you'll flounder. But lucky for you, you found a way forward here. Let's start by answering this question. Can your ex want you back and still not come back? Well, the answer is yes. Your ex can want you back and still never come back. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear, but it is the truth. And if you really think about it, you may have even experienced this in the past yourself. This deep desire for this other person's presence that you resist so you can ultimately move on. And I'll tell you something, the odds are extremely high that your ex does want you right now. They miss you, they miss seeing your face, spending time with you, talking to you, touching you. You brought them a lot of happiness, and they know that you could again, and all they have to do is pick up the phone and call you. But the thing is, only a small part of them actually feels that way. A bigger part of them sees all the issues that taking you back would create. They see your neediness and your problematic behavior. They see the problems you had connecting, the fights, the hurt feelings. And they see how all this would put a stop to your future together before it could even start. And a part of them probably feels like they can't trust you, because they're still stinging with the pain of the breakup. And when they think about you in the relationship, this part of them only sees what you've done, how you hurt them. And another part of them is too proud to admit that they made a mistake by walking away. They don't want to go back on their word and look like they're indecisive or that they need you in their life to be happy. Ultimately, there's one big reason they'll want you back and still not take you back. And it's actually something that the two of you have in common. They are also coming from a place of fear. They fear that being with you isn't going to make them happy. They think that they're just going to get hurt again, or maybe they're going to hurt you. And they fear it's all going to be a waste of time, energy, struggle, and they'll just end up alone again. So that's what you're up against. All these parts of your ex that are working against your chances of reconnecting with them. Now, it may be daunting, but understanding this internal conflict is vital to getting your ex back. And the good news is that you have an advantage here, because typically the heart does end up winning out over fear, because love is really the strongest motivator we have. I mean, look at you, right? You're here fighting for another chance with your ex despite the fear that you're feeling. That's the power of love that's kept humanity going for thousands of years. So how can you make your ex see that love and accept it? How can you make sure that their love overpowers their fear? Well, basically, you just have to nurture the parts of your ex that want you back and starve the parts of them that want to move on. So you want to give them every opportunity to feel love for you, to miss you, to pine for your touch and your presence. And you want to remove any reasons they have to actually object to this process. And this starts with number one, which is to take off the pressure. So if you want your ex back and you are coming at it from a place of fear, then your number one enemy is going to be yourself. You may think that you're holding back and following all the rules, but if you're watching this video, there's a very high chance that you're putting pressure on your ex to spend time with you, to text you back, to talk to you, and to ultimately make the decision to get back together. Now, don't get down on yourself, because this is very easy to do. At this point in time, your ex will be extremely sensitive to feeling pressured. Part of the reason they ended the relationship, in many cases anyways, was to take back control of their life, to reject that feeling that they were being pushed in a certain direction. So now that they've separated from you, they don't want to experience that feeling again, especially since they're trying to make up their own mind here. So really, all it takes is one or two text messages to make them feel that pressure and pull away even further. And it can be even more subtle than that. You can do everything right on paper, and your ex can still feel pressured. That's because little things like the tone of your voice, the way you look at them, and how you word messages can give off a stench of desperation that you just can't control. But don't lose hope, because you can sidestep this problem by undertaking the mindset shift that I'm talking about right here in this video. If you do it properly, you'll no longer give off those desperate vibes, because you'll be focusing on different things. That's really the goal here. And the first step to make this happen is to pull back, way back. You want to remove your presence, and with that, the pressure. You want to replace this pressure with absence. See, an interesting thing happens when you do this. When they feel no external pressure from you to get back together, they'll start to realize that they're experiencing another kind of pressure. And that's the pull they feel to reconnect with you. So by giving them space, you're forcing them to face the fact that a big part of themselves does still want you back. And this happens because of a psychological process called projection. Now, projection is the idea that we often deal with difficult feelings by attributing them to someone else. So one example can be how a cheater will suddenly become very jealous and controlling of their partner. Basically, they start cheating and then they start to worry that you're cheating. And this is the projection of guilt onto the other person. And, the same thing happens with a breakup. Your ex wants you back, but they don't want to face this fact. It's easier for them to put that feeling onto you and pretend that they're the only one trying to move on and you keep pulling them back. Now, does this make sense logically? No, not really, but it's also extremely common. It's essentially shifting the blame to avoid accountability. It's not always easy, but we will jump through hoops if we think that there's a way we can avoid, taking the blame for something, including our own feelings. And you're not doing yourself any favors by staying in contact with your ex all the time. Texting them frequently, begging and pleading, treating them like gold, it all makes you an easy target for this kind of projection. But when you pull away, it becomes almost impossible for your ex to do this. They can't say, oh yeah, they want me back so bad, when you haven't even, texted them in 2 weeks. And that's when they'll be forced to acknowledge that this feeling of desire to get back together is theirs, that the call is coming from inside the house, if you will. So to make this happen, you need to make use of no contact. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this if you've seen any of my other videos. In fact, I'll link to one of the best ones in the description and up here in the corner if you want more in-depth information on how no contact really works. But basically, simply you just need to stop talking to your ex for around 30 days, right? You need to stop calling them, texting them, going over to their place, sleeping together, liking their posts on social media, hanging out with mutual friends, all of it. But if you're already past that period of the breakup and you're starting to reconnect, then you need to talk to them and spend time with them. So it's game on, right? Well, no, because you still need to be very mindful of the pressure that you're putting on your ex. So you need to at least maintain a little distance from them and let them come to you whenever possible. The goal here is to let them take ownership of the situation. You want them to feel like they're in control of what happens next, like you're not obsessed with getting them back. In fact, they shouldn't even be 100% sure that you really want them back. They need to think that you're both still feeling it out. And if you can make them feel that getting back together is on the table, but it's something that you both have to figure out together, then all the pressure that they've been feeling is going to evaporate, and that's going to be one less thing keeping the two of you apart. All right, and let's move on to number 2, which is to face your fear. Now, we've talked about it a bit, but I really wanted to highlight here how your fear of not getting your ex back is actually a big obstacle that's going to hurt your chances. Even if you think you've been keeping it under wraps, it really informs everything you do, from how you talk to your ex to how you treat yourself. And if it's dominating your thoughts, it's probably going to dominate your actions as well. And unfortunately, this fear can cause you to turn inward and really obsess over your ex and the future, which is only going to make things worse, especially when you go no contact. So how do you get over this fear of your ex moving on? Well, you actually have to face it. You want to start by imagining a world where your ex does move on and leave you behind. A world where you never get back together. What would the next week look like for you? The next month? The next year? Now, I know it's painful to imagine, but if you're able to be honest about it, then you'll see that life can go on without your ex. It might not be your ideal life, but it's a lot better than living in constant fear and obsession. Now, during the no contact phase, I want you to start to actively live out that life. So mourn the breakup and start to pick up the pieces of your life and actually move forward. Rebuild what's broken and focus on the things that give you strength. Rethink your life, make changes, set goals, achieve those goals, and you'll see that you're beginning to make progress without your ex. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that you have to actually move on. I'm just asking you to act as if you're moving on, because this is it's actually the best way to get your ex to come back. It will show you that you can make it without your ex if you need to. And if you can internalize this idea, you won't be so scared when you do start to reconnect with your ex. You'll see that whatever happens, it will be okay. Plus, all of this self-improvement is going to help you access an inner strength that you probably didn't know you had. Your ex they're gonna see your newfound confidence, and it will attract them to you like a magnet, making a lot of their objections to getting back together seem trivial compared to all that you're offering. And another step that you're not gonna wanna take, that I really think you should, is to go out on a couple dates with new people. Now, this can be extremely hard when your heart is set on your ex, but it's a way to instantly jumpstart your confidence and really show that you are desirable to plenty of attractive, cool, interesting people. And this is something we forget after being in a relationship for a while, and especially after a breakup, but it's vital to hold on to that idea that we're desirable when dealing with an ex. So at the very least, download some apps and just see what's out there. And number 3 is to face your ex's fears. So we faced your fears, but now it's time to face your ex's. So we talked about how their fears are a major obstacle here, and so you need to do your best to actually address them if you do want them back. And one of your ex's fears is that it won't work out because, the two of you are going to run into the same problems that drove a wedge into the relationship the first time. The issues that prevented you two from connecting. So try looking at the relationship and the breakup from your ex's perspective. If you were together for more than a short time, you probably know a lot of the issues that your ex was having. But if you're unsure what your ex is thinking or what their issues are, now is the great time to take my free quiz to help you fill in those blind spots. You can take it, like I said, for free at breakupbrad.com/quiz. It only takes 5 minutes and it gives you some genuine insight into the situation with your ex. I put it together personally using all the knowledge that I've gained in almost 15 years as a breakup coach. Again, check it out over at breakupbrad.com/quiz. I know it's going to give you the boost that you really need right now. Now, let's talk about some issues that you can start addressing immediately. So maybe you have a drinking problem and you and your ex always fought about it. Well, now is the time for you to face that problem and get help. Quit drinking or seriously scale it back. This kind of thing isn't going to be easy, but it will be a powerful message to your ex that you're taking the future seriously. There are really countless possible issues here, and most of them are, a lot more subtle than alcoholism. So maybe your ex felt like you always dominated conversations and never asked them about themselves. Well, now's the time to start practicing listening and being curious about the people around you. Or say your ex was always uneasy about your relationship with your previous ex, how you two stayed friends and had all sorts of inside jokes. Well, now is the time to distance yourself from that person. Again, we're trying to remove any reasons that your ex has to not get back together. So think of your ex's objections to getting back together like a wall. You're finding the loose planks and just putting them out one by one. And eventually, the wall will be gone and there won't be anything keeping the two of you apart. So as you work on this, you're actually going to see progress pretty quickly. And now you might be thinking, great, I did it. It's time to let my ex know that I've done all these things for them and that now we can be together. But this is a crucial moment to slow down. Remember, you're trying to avoid putting pressure on your ex right now. If you come up to them and say, hey, I'm going back to school and I quit huffing paint and I cut off all my toxic friends for you, what are they going to think? They're going to be convinced that you're obsessing over getting them back, right? They'll think that you did this just so that they owe you another chance. And this puts a ton of pressure on them to actually come back to you. For now, don't brag or overshare. When you two actually reconnect and have a few real conversations, then you could bring them up to speed in a more casual, subtle way. Another strategy is to just share these things with mutual friends and then wait for the information to actually get back to your ex. Because trust me, they're almost certainly talking about you and the moves that you're making now that you've been broken up. But what about your ex's fears that have, nothing to do with you as a person or the relationship that you created? So something like, they have a fear of intimacy or they're afraid of getting divorced like their parents did. Well, that actually brings us to the final piece of the puzzle here, number 4, which is focus on what you can control. Now, you can't guarantee that your ex is going to come back to you. And if you try too hard to make it happen, you're only going to push them away. It's much easier for you to slip up, apply too much pressure, and scare them away than it is to win them back with just one more message or one more date. Now, I know you're probably dealing with a lot of mental turmoil over this because breakups are truly awful, especially when you know that the two of you are truly meant to be together. It can drive you crazy when you're not sure how you can make them see it. But I find that if you focus on what you can control and give it your best shot, it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to. All you can do is present yourself in the best light, focusing on improving yourself, and then slowly reconnect with your ex over time. Now, there are going to be obstacles, and you're going to want to just blow through them. But instead, slow down, consider your options, and take the path that will get you to your goal. If you can do that, you'll give yourself the best possible chance to get back together with your ex and avoid drama and hurt feelings. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the video. When you're wondering what to do next, remember the advice I've given you. Remove the pressure, deal with you and your ex's fears, and then focus on what you can control. And if you're in a more difficult situation and you're looking for more guidance, go to breakupbrad.com/coaching to sign up and work with me directly. Thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, and leaving me a comment. I read and respond to as many of them as I possibly can. I'm Brad Browning, and I'll see you next time.